So you could like have the machine pull you a little further forward if you want like a hip dominant squat, or you could have it
Nice.
pull you directly down if you want a quad dominant squat. So being that we just deadlifted, we chose quad dominant.
Take her away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Brush here with my dear co-host, new father of two, Ian DiGiacomo. Welcome to the Iron Road. The date as we record this is Thursday, December 18th. We are well in the midst of holiday cheer. And I say that unironically because I tell you, I do love Christmas, but when you're like a 20-something dude with no kids, you're like, I'm going to get really into Christmas this year. And you don't. You know, you might watch Die Hard, you might watch Lethal Weapon, Christmas classics, which I am planning on discussing with you today. But, you know, you don't decorate the house. There isn't the wonder, a child's wonder in your midst, you know. But this year, you know, my daughter, she'll be 5 in January, and she is so into Christmas. And, you know, like my wife is very festive. So there's been a true Christmas spirit. And like, it's actually has me watching my favorite Christmas movies. Like I said, I watched the first Lethal Weapon for the first time in ages, got so into it. Totally underrated movie, in my opinion. We'll discuss later. Watched the first Die Hard for the first time in some time. I still like Die Hard 3 better, but damn, Die Hard 1 is good. Anyway, we'll discuss all of this. So I just made a couple wild, provocative
Yeah.
claims to get Ian going. Ian, how are you doing? Respond to my dim-witted opening rant.
I mean, you can't drop bombs like that in the opening monologue without, you know, expecting a rebuttal. Yeah, dude, Die Hard. That's a can of worms, man. It's a can of worms.
I have a theory. I have a theory that I
Go
think you
on.
can meet me halfway on this.
You have the floor.
Okay. Die Hard 3, first of all, if we were to look at this as historians, and make no mistake about it, we are historians, okay?
We are.
The action movie golden era ends with Die Hard 3. 1995, very few great action movies get made after 1995.
Yeah,
It's
I agree.
kind of the end of like a 15-year run that you could argue starts with Rambo First Blood, kind of the first modern-ish action movie, okay?
Yeah.
Goes all the way through, you know, you've got like latter era action movies like Speed and Point Break, also classics. And then you've
Sure.
got Die Hard with the Vengeance, which I think ends it. Now, I think that the action sequences in Die Hard with the Vengeance, and this is a common theme in terms of us discussing movies on the show, are some of the best ever recorded. If you look at it as an adult and you understand that there was no CGI, okay, just the scene of them driving the taxi cab through Central Park is out of control.
Yeah.
It is out of control. What you consider there's no CGI, and then again, underrated, they really kind of blew up a train and just had people running for their lives from a flying train car. All stuff that they wouldn't even think about doing now. They'd be like, you know,
True.
what, let's just CGI that in. Like, that is definitively one of those scenes where after they're filming it, they're like, wow, someone really could have died there. Like, that's out of control. So I think Die Hard with the Vengeance, for my heavy metal fans, is like the And Justice for All of action movies. It has the highest peak of action in the franchise, okay? But its floor is perhaps lower than some of the other Metallica albums. So, like, the ending in Die Hard with the Vengeance is just kind of silly. Like, Bruce Willis is in the phone booth and he sees the aspirin cap and he somehow is able to conclude that this is where these guys are hiding. Like, and then he shoots the chopper out of the sky with a 6-shooter while Simon's got like an M60 literally aimed on him. Like, the ending, it's almost like they realized we did too much in the first 2 acts. We're not even going to try. Like, we can't top it. We can't possibly top a stuntman driving a taxi cab through Central Park at 75 miles an hour. So, like, whatever, like, sue us, you know, where Die Hard is a more contained story. It's from A to Z, it's more even keeled. Okay. But the top tier action sequences are not as good as the top tier sequences in Die Hard with the Vengeance. Partially because it probably had a higher budget, partially because, you know, there's that one-upsmanship in movies where they did that, we got to do it better. But also the contained setting of Die Hard, we're just in one building, doesn't loan itself to car chases and things like that. Whereas when you have
Sure.
New York City as your total playground, like it's just great. And on top of that, being a New Yorker, it is a great New York movie. They're going all
It
over New York
is.
City, and it's not one of those movies that is in New York, kind of like Ghostbusters. Most of it was shot in a soundstage in Los Angeles. Like this was actually shot in New York City. They're in Yankee Stadium, they're uptown, they're downtown, they're in Harlem. Like so you see this interesting thing of 90s New York City, which is the city that I remembered as a child, the city that I wish still existed. So like I think it's great, but Die Hard, the original, is much more consistent, I think, from A
It
to Z in
is.
terms of the film. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Die Hard with a Vengeance. First of all, I still don't get that water mixing
We'd be
equation in
dead.
Central
We'd
Park.
be so
I
dead.
First of all, that's just I would just sit down and quit. Like, I've seen that movie over a dozen times, and I still do not comprehend how they got to solve that riddle. So kudos to Sam Jackson. Also, Sam Jackson, by the way, great addition to the cast.
Amazing.
You know,
Amazing. Yes.
such a good dynamic between Sam Jackson and Bruce Willis in that movie. It's so good. I will agree that the ending was silly, and it kind of opened the can of worms for the next few movies to be outrageous. Like
Yeah.
if he could do that, if he can do these little these superhuman
Exactly.
things like shoot the helicopter out of the sky, then it became no holds barred. He could do whatever. He could jump a motorcycle into a helicopter in later movies, and it just became kind of like Fast and the Furious, where they just went to the moon with
it gets out of
stunts.
control. Yeah, it gets out of control.
So I will agree that I loved all the New York influences.
It's great
because the first one was shot in L.A. Was it
yes.
L.A.?
Yes.
Okay. It's hard to beat Alan Rickman as the villain.
I know.
Hans Gruber.
But dude,
I mean,
if anyone could do it, it's Jeremy Irons, though.
I know.
And the thing with Jeremy Irons that he really does in Die Hard with a Vengeance is he plays a more physical presence than Hans Gruber. Like he's got the sleeveless shirt on. He looks like a soldier. He actively looks like a soldier on a mission, where Hans Gruber looks more like a businessman or a banker, and again, like it kind of fits the fact that he's openly trying to steal money in the first one, where in the third one, it's kind of a twist that he's, they don't really figure that out until towards the end of the movie. But I did like the kind of slightly more physical presence. He had a more militaristic determination about him, which I actually really liked. I thought it was very endearing.
Yeah.
But I agree. Alan Rickman just steals the show in the first Die Hard. All of his monologues back and forth between John McClane on the CB radio are just like absolutely timeless. Like they're just great.
Yeah.
Underrated scene in the first Die Hard, if you haven't seen it in a while, is when the cocaine using salesperson gets himself killed.
Ellis?
He's just such a prick. And it's
Hans, Booby, I'm your white knight.
He's like, I just love what he's like. Hans, what is this? Method acting, babe? Put down the gun. And it's like, it's like, John. And he starts smiling, but then doesn't realize that he's dealing with like stone cold killers that like do not care about him at all. Like, they're both great. And I would even say that Die Hard 2, which is also a Christmas season movie, is actually underrated. Like, it's a good movie. My one kind of gripe with that movie, well, there's two. First is, John McTiernan directed 1 and 3. Okay. Ian,
that's a differentiating factor.
What other movies did John McTiernan direct?
I have no clue.
All right. Imagine you go into Hollywood.
I hope they're good, because
I'm about to blow your mind. I'm
okay.
so happy you don't know this. Okay.
Okay.
His first 4 or 5 movies were his first one, Predator. His second movie is Die Hard. Okay. He also does
Predator.
He also does Last Action Hero, Hunt for Red October, and Die Hard 3. Just retire.
He's a stud.
It's over. Okay. Like you can't beat it. Go do something else.
Why on earth would they swap him out?
He was filming Hunt for Red October when Die Hard 2 was being, so he had already committed to do Hunt for Red October, which is by far the best Tom Clancy film, not even close. And so they just couldn't get him in. But like, as I'm watching Die Hard 2, I'm like, these movies are obviously absurd. But there one
Yes.
aspect of it that I couldn't get over. It was almost like too much for me. The bad guy in the movie who does the naked Tai Chi in the very beginning, who's Colonel Stewart is his name. Okay. He takes control of the airport control tower. He gives false landing instructions to like a British Airways plane, okay, telling them that the ground is like 200 feet higher or lower than it really is. And long story short, he causes a massive commercial airline crash in which hundreds of people are killed. And they just get over it. Like at the end of the movie, everyone's just celebrating. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
you just had 220 people barbecued on your, you know, at the end of the movie, it's like Christmas song. Everyone's hugging each other. And I'm like, this should probably be a little bit more somber. Okay. Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
would be considered one of the greatest at that point in time. It would be arguably the worst. This is pre World Trade Center bombing 1 and 2.
Yeah.
This would be considered the worst act of terrorism on U.S. soil, maybe ever. So it's like, it's just so funny how it blows the plane up and then they just kind of like they get over it in like maybe 90 seconds, you know, and
It
then
was
it's
that
back
classic.
to John
It was that.
McClane's quips.
It was that classic Hollywood era where they had to end on a high note. They had to end on a good note.
Yes.
It couldn't be depressing. It couldn't be.
Yes.
You wanted the good guy to thrive and finish on top. And yeah, man, I gotta say though, it's really great that they used Jeremy Irons in the third one because he's meant for voice acting. And
Yes.
he's got such a cool voice, and a
Yes.
lot of his part, especially in the beginning, was just him on the walkie-talkie or on the whatever it is on the phone. So all you can hear is his voice, which is so badass, like the raspy. He just has that effect, and they used it well. It was well cast, very well cast, I'd say.
Not many guys could have played that to be a good physical presence and strictly a good voice actor. You know, like
Yes.
there's a lot of
Yes.
guys that could have done one or the other, but
Sure.
they would not have been believable, you know, as both. And I also just like his the character is more likable than Hans Gruber. He's like kind of professional. Like by the end of the movie, he actually kind of respects McClane when he tracks him on the boat. Like it's just like, listen, I have to do this because you killed my brother, but like you're actually pretty fucking tough guy. Like, you know, there's an impressiveness to it. But I'll leave the discussion with this. There is a part of that movie that no words are spoken, and it has me in tears, and it's strictly due to Samuel L. Jackson. When Samuel L. Jackson walks out of his shop because Bruce Willis is wearing the sandwich sign that says something we can't say on air because we'll be taken down immediately. The look on Samuel L. Jackson's face is just, he's just like, I can't.
Really?
It's so
Really, guy?
funny. And he's like, "How you doing today, sir? You feeling all right?" Like just it's just so well acted. I remember reading that the writer of the movie, it might have also been McTiernan himself who said this, said that he wasn't comfortable as a white man writing black parts and trying to write how to make them sound black, essentially. And so he gave Samuel L. Jackson a lot of carte blanche to ad lib to make the character more authentic, and that to me makes the performance even more impressive. And here's another little bit of movie trivia for you: Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance, was originally supposed to be, as designed, a Lethal Weapon sequel.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I guess that, you know, it got stuck in development hell. It went to someone else, but it was supposed to be a black-white buddy cop movie with Riggs and Murtaugh solving the bombs.
So the concept or the same characters,
The
same actors?
I mean, it would have been just Riggs and Murtaugh in place of McClane and Zeus, the guy Zeus
That's
Carver.
a fun fact.
Yeah, but also you think about this too, like there's no way you could. It would be a lot less believable to do it in LA because you'd just be stuck in traffic the whole fucking time. They'd be like, all right, you got 20 minutes to get downtown. You're like, well, we're just all going to die. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, unless I take a chopper, like there's traffic on the 101. It's over. Like, we can't make
Roll
it.
credits.
Like, yeah. Everyone dies. The school goes up in flames. It's over. Like, there's not even a question, you know? But yeah, man, I could talk about this stuff forever. I'll also just say, I rewatched the first Lethal Weapon in years, and it really shot up my rankings because of how dark it is. It really is a darker movie than I remembered. And one of the things I like about that movie is the specter of the Vietnam War is in the movie. Like, if you think about it, Riggs and Murtaugh both Vietnam veterans. It's written into into the story. Okay. And the crew of guys who are selling drugs are also all Vietnam veterans.
Hmm.
And I love the contrast of how like all of these guys went to this war and each of them were dealing with it differently. Like Murtaugh, family man, beautiful wife, beautiful children, totally normal. Riggs, who had a more extreme job in the military, batshit crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
just completely insane. And then you've got, Gary Busey and his crew, who are these like amoral, stone cold professionals who are just like, we're going to get and who've received the same training as Riggs, by the way. So I like how it's a post Vietnam movie. Um, I find Mel Gibson to actually be super believable as like a super soldier. He has the physique, like he looks like a wiry special forces
Yeah.
soldier in the movie. Like he's very, very believable. I just, man, I think it's an all-time classic. And while I do love Lethal Weapon 2, I mean, who doesn't love Joe Pesci? There's something about this
Okay.
seriousness.
Okay.
Yeah. There's something about the seriousness of the first one that I just prefer. And you can't go wrong.
Agreed.
Like I love all four Lethal Weapons. They all have their appeal.
5.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Lethal Weapon 5, brought to us by It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Okay, controversial blackface. But they're just great movies. Now, yeah, I could talk about this forever, but I wanted to tell you there's been some adjustments in my world as it pertains to training, which we have not discussed.
Do
Okay.
tell.
So I've been focused a lot on endurance recently and have just been hating lifting, just not been having whole hell of a lot of fun. And I realized I'm starting to lose some muscle. I'm starting to get pretty flat. And I'm like, you know what? I got to do something to maintain some muscle. And so, but I'm like, I just hate lifting. And the only time it fits into my schedule is I got to get it done before 9 a.m.
Okay.
And I'm like, to get out of bed, to go do something solo that I don't really want to do right now because it's not my number one goal is tough. So I texted one of my jiu-jitsu training partners I'm going to tell you about this guy and you're going to see the archetype in your head. Former wrestler, former Army Ranger, okay, father of 3, shaved head, still competes in grappling at the same age as me, about 37, 38 years old, whatever, right?
So not very intense at all.
No, super mellow. You had to really drag him out of bed to get there,
Real beta.
and he and I have developed like a mutual respect for each other, both as grapplers and like, we're dads that are still trying to kick ass. You're closing it on 40. So I messaged him like, listen, dude, I know that you hate lifting at this point in your life. So do I. What do you say we just do this shit together? Just get this shit over with. So we picked a gym that is right by where our jiu-jitsu place is that happens to be like perfectly equidistant from us, right? So I joined this gym. It's called Fitness 19 in Malvern, New York. Right?
I've been there.
Yeah. Dude, I'm so used to training at the Synergy in Franklin Square that is literally a cesspool.
Grungy.
That I forgot how nice gyms can be, both in terms of like organization, but also equipment quality. So I go in, I send the guy a program, 3-day-a-week program. So we're training Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5:15 in the morning. I'm up at 4, crush my first meal, hydrate, go train for an hour and a half, get on with the day. And we're doing like an upper lower total split. So we do upper on Monday, lower Wednesday, total on Friday, but some conditioning afterwards, depending on the day and what we've done. I walk into this gym and I did train there years ago. They have added so much stuff to this.
Really?
So many more platforms. Okay. All of the plates are organized and in the exact right location. Okay. All of the dumbbells, they're not rusted and they're exactly where they need to be. But on top of that, they have added a litany of new equipment. So they've got like the Hammer Strength decline press, which I've never even used before. Flat.
I think it's the best one. It might be the best one.
And high incline. So I've got all 4 Hammer Strength presses. But the real eye-opener for me, because one of our days, the program that I wrote, I wanted to do a heavy hinge and a bilateral squat. And I'm like, I feel like the deadlift really carries over to grappling. I want a deadlift. I don't want to load my spine at my age, the amount of time that I'm on the mat, okay, after I squat, after I deadlift on that Wednesday workout. So I walk in, and what do they have? A brand new, mint condition, Hammer Strength belt squat. Okay. Now, I've never used a belt squat in my life. Okay. Every
Really?
gym that I've ever trained in did not have one.
That's
Back in the
surprising.
day, I almost bought one for my old gym, Relentless Strength and Performance, but it was one of like the old school West Side barbell ones that you had to like pull a steam compressed pin out, but you could not do it from you needed a training partner to help you get set up in the
Yeah.
old school belt squat. Okay. They didn't have this new model. So yesterday we come in, we do some broad jumps, like some plyos, we do some speed pulls, we do some heavy pulls, and then we're like, yo, we're not loading our spine. We're not back squatting. Like, this is too much to ask for our demands. I go over on this belt squat, dude. I think it's the best machine I've ever used.
Really?
Dude, I worked up to like 3 plates aside. My buddy worked up to 4 plates aside. And I think about, yes, granted, okay, there are obviously some differences anthropometrically. Yes, I don't know what the machine itself weighs, so I'm not saying I belt squatted 315, but we'll call it 315 just for sake of ease, but who the hell knows what it is? It's just a delineation point, right? I felt the entire movement in my legs. And the downward pull of the belt around your waist perfectly decompressed my spine from the deadlifting.
Wow. Interesting.
And
All
the
right.
way and these newer belt squats, like the old school, like West Side barbell one, you're facing away. The machine is behind you, okay, and you're facing out, okay. These newer school belt squats, you stand up, you basically unlatch it so that the machine can go down, and they've got a series of different poles that you can hold on to change your torso angle. So, and you could hook the lever that you would belt squat with has different holes in it. So you could like have the machine pull you a little further forward if you want like a hip dominant squat, or you could have it
Nice.
pull you directly down if you want a quad dominant squat. So being that we just deadlifted, we chose quad dominant. Being able to grab these poles while the machine pulls you right down means almost anyone can squat with a vertical torso.
Regardless of femur length,
Yeah.
regardless of
Yeah.
their
I
thigh
mean, and,
length.
and
Yeah.
even if you're a little hunched over, guess what? The weight's not on your back, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I used one recently at a gym by me, and it absolutely cooked my legs,
Yeah,
and I didn't
dude.
expect it to.
Yeah.
And also, you can get a lot of like last ditch effort cheat reps with your hands on the bars. Like once your
Yes.
legs are kicked,
Mhm.
you can get like almost like spotter assisted with by yourself. Like you
Yes.
can kind of pull yourself out, load the negative, pull yourself out,
Yeah.
load the negative. So yeah, I was debating on getting one for my home gym, but they are a big space consumer. They're
They're a
a
space
huge
consumer.
space monster.
The only other thing you could really do with it, I saw a guy actually before we got on there, he was doing like RDLs on it,
That's badass.
which is I thought was a great idea because of how it's loaded, pulling you down the whole time. So resisting that eccentric is going to be quite challenging compared to a barbell per se. But dude, it made me think like when I get out of New York and I have a garage, like that might be the one piece of equipment that I spring for, just because there's nothing like squatting. Like a
Yeah.
deep squat in terms of like how it's gonna hit, especially if you can keep your torso vertical, which you can do on this machine. The way that you can hit hams, glutes, and for me, I'm not a quad dominant squatter, so I'm feeling
It's
things in
true.
my legs that I would not feel from a normal squat. Like my squat is just like ass, hamstring, adductor. When
And
I
back.
squat a lot, I just get massive adductors, but there's like no mass around my kneecap. And as I'm doing this, I'm like, wow, I really haven't felt this sensation in a squat movement, with the exception of maybe Smith machine squats. But you're
Okay.
still loading. In this case, if I would have had 3 plates on each side, I'm still compressing my spine,
Yes.
right? Dude, I was such a game changer for me. Like I absolutely like couldn't believe it. Like I would say it's the only thing that could maybe compete with it, which I have never used. It's becoming more common, is one of those pendulum squats.
Dude. Have you used one? You said you
Never.
haven't used one?
Never.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
So I've started using them over the last few months in gyms around me. I go get a guest pass. I try the new equipment, try some different stuff.
Yeah.
They are brutal. I mean, devastating. So there's a weird point, and some pendulum squats have two loading pins, a back and a front, and I think it's
Okay.
so you can get past this certain sticking point. I could be wrong, but first of all, the range of motion it's super deep. It feels like butter. It hits your quads like nothing else I've ever felt. But there's that midway sticking point that will make you question your whole life. It it really,
Really?
yeah. Once you come out of the hole, like I'd rather sink into the hole for a little while, sink into a deep knee bend, get that crazy quad pump. But then when you drive out of it, just about halfway through, you hit a wall.
Really?
And I need you to try one now. I need you to find one and try one just to experience this because it is absolutely demoralizing, quite honestly. You can't use as much weight as you think you can. I do believe they have that front weight, counterweight to help you get through that sticking point. Or
Okay.
if you
Okay.
can't even you do the frame itself because it's so hard, you can
Uh-huh.
you can kind of like deload it or unload it
Okay. So
with
it's
front
almost like
loaded weight.
when sometimes if guys can't do like glute ham raises, you can attach a band behind you and hold on to the band to counterbalance some of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Dude, I've only seen it on on videos. In fact, oh my god, I'm forgetting the guy's name. And you've brought him up before. Um, who was he was a strongman competitor. He was big into PRI stuff. Short guy,
Hmm.
super jacked.
Mariusz Pudzianowski?
No, 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 no. He was a professor at Springfield College in their exercise science department. You would know him if you saw him. I'm forgetting his name. He was coaching
Was
people
he
at a what?
semi-pro? Was he pro? Was he?
He would have been no bigger than a 220. Because he
Oh,
was a
Mike
really short.
Mastel?
No, no, no. I know who Mike is. That was your guy. I'm
Yeah.
forgetting the guy's name. I'm very upset about this. But anyway,
Is he a
I've
heavyweight strongman? Is he
he was like a 220er.
a
I'm
220?
sure it doesn't matter. He's
Not Rob Kearney?
no, he's big in our world. Very, very intelligent guy. And he had been saying years ago that he had started teaching his clients how to squat on a pendulum squat because it guides you into the perfect bottom position. And he felt like it again, I don't, I'm having never used one, I'm not entirely sure, but he said it felt like it guides you into a position where you will not coach yourself to do a hip dominant squat by getting that kind of ass to calves position. Now, obviously, the situation's heavily modified. You're grabbing onto handles in front of you, which is changing your torso angle. The pad itself is at this crazy angle, like I mean,
Yeah.
your feet are on this crazy foot pad, which is like a bizarre angle, and the pad itself is loaded like almost down your back, so you're pushing into it. So it's like a completely different strength curve than a squat. His point was he just felt like it taught you how to get ass to calves and really have a quad dominant squat as opposed to a
Sure.
hip dominant squat. Either way, that's another machine that I would love to get. But you want to talk about big footprints? I mean, dude, that thing is like,
It's like
I
10
mean,
feet long.
yeah, I mean, like that's like
Yeah.
a belt squat. You'd say, oh, it takes up a lot of space, bro. That is nothing compared to a pendulum squat. The thing
Yeah.
it is by its own nature fucking enormous.
As much as I love that machine and it is devastating and it's in a good way, if I'm being if I'm being clear, I would disagree with this person that you're referencing on the teaching the squat because your torso is vertical according to the pad, but the foot plate is turned like a leg. It's almost like a leg press, like a horizontal leg press, where you're seated like those old Nautilus ones, where your foot plate's in front of you and the
Yes,
back pad is upright. So it reminds me more of that. I guess it would help people get exposed to super deep knee flexion
I
and
think that might have been his
that
argument.
ass to grass, but the mechanics aren't. Besides that one component, the mechanics aren't similar at all. And then to get most people into that super deep knee bend, you need a pretty high ankle pitch for most people to get that
Yes,
low
yes,
comfortably,
yes,
or a good front loaded weight, like a good goblet, kettlebell, dumbbell.
or both.
Um, I do think it's probably too intense for most general population people. If I'm going to be honest with you, like you'll never see people using it. If you go to a public gym, it's always free. And that's when you know a machine's hardcore or people are just scared of it because, you know, if you've been on it, you don't want to go back. And if you haven't been on it, you probably don't know how to use it.
Yeah,
So like a
yeah.
leg press is simple enough. You just get in, you push back and forth. This thing, it just looks medieval and it looks like a torture contraption.
In that essence, it's like at Fitness 19, they have one Airdyne, which me and my buddy will do like 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off intervals after training. No one's doing steady state on a fucking Airdyne. That thing is there
You're not
just to,
supposed to.
just to blast you in half. Like that's it.
Yeah.
They've got one Jacob's ladder, which I've actually
Cool.
never used before, but I think it would be very good for like threshold training, like heart rate between say 165, 175, especially for grappling because there's a pulling component to it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I just can't find a gym with a VersaClimber. And that
Yeah.
is such a torturous thing. Like the VersaClimber just becomes a clothes hanger at most gyms because it is so fucking hardcore. You know, it also doesn't look trendy. Like a Jacob's ladder looks kind of cool, I suppose,
That's
but
true.
like a VersaClimber is just like, first of all, if you watch Rocky 4, you want to use a VersaClimber, like period.
Yes.
No
Yeah.
question about it.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Um, but second of all, there are very few machines that could really train localized muscle endurance in your legs and particularly in your pulling muscles. And for grappling, that's just super, super important. Like most high intensity conditioning you're doing for grappling is going to be lower body oriented. And like it just doesn't get you don't get the same muscle endurance effects in your upper back and your forearms like you would from doing a VersaClimber. But it got me thinking is like I used to be so hardcore, Ian, and so did you, about like barbells only. And I think it's important that guys go through that phase. And I think it's frankly, you're not a man unless you could find competent ways to train your body with a barbell. Like you're not a real lifter unless you find yourself stranded somewhere, you have to get a workout in and there's a rack, you should be able to do it. Okay. It might not be ideal. There might be movements that you would otherwise not do, but you should know how to get a full body workout in with a squat rack and a bar, or you're not a serious lifter. That's just
Agreed. Agreed.
clear as day. Okay. It's like the survival tool of the lifter. Like you're fucking not going to be a Green Beret unless they can leave you in the woods with like a fucking knife and a compass and you find your way back to base inside of 3 days. Like that's the equivalent of a lifter. Like straight bar, plates. Even if you're banged up, you should know how to finagle this barbell in every possible way, with especially including the stuff you may have in your gym bag, okay, to be able to get this shit done. But
But with go ahead.
go, go, go,
Sorry.
no, no, go, go, go.
With all due respect, it takes a long time to master the barbell, if you ever master it. I always tell my clients, like, you have to earn the barbell. They're like, why aren't we squatting with the barbell? I'm like, you're not ready for that yet. Like you really do have to earn it and you have to graduate and prove your readiness. It's like a rite of passage. You have to, pass certain tests before you get to barbell lifts. It's just the way it goes. The barbell in many ways is too unforgiving to just hand to a beginner. But I do agree that to be considered a serious lifter,
Precisely.
you need to master these disciplines.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I mean, you should almost be relieved if you're on if you're at a hotel gym somewhere and you walk in and you see a bar and a rack, you should be relieved. I'm not going to miss a step. I can
Yeah,
get my shit done. Okay. Like
sure.
I can even progress a little bit while I'm here. But with that said, especially without specialty bars, like in particular, thinking of like a safety bar or a cambered bar, some type of bar you can put on your back without having to jam your shoulders into external rotation. Uh,
Sure.
Machines, as you get older, are such a godsend. Like for me, the older I get, the more I realize that benching does not do much for my pecs. It just beats my shoulders up, right?
Yeah.
And I have never seen better pec development than my last run of fucking around with bodybuilding training when I did not touch a barbell and just did hammer strength machines. In particular, the incline machines, it got my upper chest looking so good. It was like, where has this been my whole life?
I know.
Like little things like that. Of course, like leg training, like you don't realize for most people, the limiting factor of like a set of like 12 to 15 squats is actually their respiratory system. You get so gassed
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
because the bar compressing you. Like
Yeah.
leg hypertrophy is so much easier with machines, and the risk of injury is so much lower.
Also, your
Even
low back is a limiting factor.
yes,
High rep
yes,
barbell squats, it's your low back.
yeah,
That's what's giving out first. That's the
yes,
weakest link.
yes, absolutely. And like on top of that, let's just say, and I don't agree with this, but let's just say for argument's sake, um, that the the high bar barbell squat is the best leg builder in the world. You and I both know that's only true on a case by case basis, right? If you're built for it, it could be great. If you're not, maybe not so much. Not without at least serious environmental modifications, like elevating your heels
Sure.
or
Sure.
something to that effect, right? Now, like let's just say that represents 100, but the injury risk is reasonably high. Okay. Now let's say you go on a leg press or a hack squat And let's say that lift is only 85% as good. I don't think that it is, but just for sake of argument, okay? But the injury risk is 1/10 of the squat.
It's a win.
It's
right
a
there.
it's a no-brainer. It's a no fucking brainer. And as I get older, I look at some of the arguments about why you have to do barbell stuff versus machine stuff. Oh, okay, it builds coordination, which is true. Okay, helps you teach your body move through space, which is also true. But now that I train a lot of really good grapplers who happen to be in their 30s, they already know how to move their bodies through space.
Yeah.
And there's this thing that occurs, Ian, with people where they feel like muscle is somehow not functional if it's been built via a machine, as if your body's like, all right, we're on a machine, build the useless muscle now. And then like when you're squatting, it's like, now we're going to build the muscle that actually works. It's like, no,
Yeah.
like muscle is functional in and of itself. Okay.
Yes.
If you are practicing your sport, okay, even if you're just doing fucking yard work, okay, that's your sport. You're a dad, you live 4 days a week, and you just love to take care of your yard, mow the lawn, haul the fertilizer, whatever. Like, you will figure out how to use that muscle and put your body in positions where the strength that you built from your machine lifting gives you an advantage in your fucking yard work. Okay.
There is carryover.
Yes.
There's absolutely carryover.
And so when I deal with grapplers whose joints are always taking a beating, they're always being put in these bizarre positions, my logic is, let's use some more machines so we can have some predictability in the strength training, okay, to where you're not in a situation where you twist a little bit and you blow your back out. Like
Yeah.
where when we're leg pressing or hack squatting, we can just rack it and get out from under the bar. And I do agree that there's benefit to things like jumps and throws in particular for athletes, but it's like, you could do machines and you can do jumps and throws.
Sure.
Right? It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, well, you gotta squat, and so you're squatting and then you do your jumps and throws, but then you gotta go train like Jay Cutler over here. And it's like, actually, no. Like you owe it to yourself to pick the form of training with the highest ceiling and the lowest risk of injury. It's
Yeah.
just that simple.
I think it's also important for like teens to their early 20s to learn the barbell and learn those movements and get movement competency, right? Actually get training competency through those formative years. And then after that, once you've proven your mettle, go for machines and pepper in the barbell as needed. Or if you're going to compete, obviously go for it. The barbell is more of like a passion for me at this point than a
Exactly.
necessity for training. But
Exactly.
I still like it. I like
Yeah.
the way it feels.
Yeah.
I just think it's badass. I think
Yeah.
it's, but if I didn't have to train with barbells or didn't want to train with barbells my entire life, I would get fine, maybe better results from a bodybuilding hypertrophy standpoint with just machines. I would argue, this can be controversial, that the hack squat, there's a few different hack squat variations, but the one where you're gliding, you're on the full carriage, laying back, unrack the handles and glide on a 45 or 30-degree angle is a better quad developer than barbell squats.
Of course.
Because there's too many other muscle groups involved. Like you said, people's body length are different. People's, bone structure is different. Not everyone is going to be an Olympic vertical torso squatter, even with a high heel pitch. Some people with long femurs, long thighs, still get tipped over. They have to. It's just a necessity. So I do think that machines are, but when you're going through that young phase that we had, we're like, oh, machines are for pussies. Like, you don't give machines their due until you get older and more wise and
Yes.
understand that they're better in a lot of ways. Like there's a time in your life when you do that. Like a time in your life when you play football and you compete in grappling at a high level or whatever. Then as you get older, you have to, sad to say, we're getting older, you have to kind of steer towards longevity and injury prevention and still being strong and capable without getting so beat up. Like my body could not handle the abuse that it took in my early 20s with powerlifting. I just can't, I couldn't do all that again now. I've seen too much. I've been through too many wars, under the barbell. So I wanted to make one point about your revelation about hammer strength changing the way your chest looked. Something that really pissed me off recently. I saw Mike Israetel on his podcast with his cohort, Jared Feather. Yeah, screw that guy. So he was basically snickering to Jared Feather that anybody who thinks the hammer strength chest press is good is like, they don't really know about lifting. They don't really know about bodybuilding. Like if they're talking to somebody who says that, they'll like look at each other and snicker to themselves like, oh, this guy's not in our ballpark. Yeah, you know what? I wish I could get like some airtime with them just to to rebuttal. Like because the strength curve is not perfect in their mind and you don't get the deepest stretch and the most weight at the bottom of the movement, that the hammer strength line and chest press line has always given me the best hypertrophy results.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah.
Oh, and it's not just like, oh, I think it's better. It's clear as day that my pecs have grown, probably because of the volume, because of how focused they are, because of the converging path
I'm
that
so
you're
glad you
on.
said that. Like
I
it's
love that.
the chest is not just a pressing muscle. There's obviously bringing your arms across your chest, so it's very difficult. Like you would need, like Louis Simmons tried to invent a specialty bar, and I think he did, but I also think it was a little too unstable. That allowed you, as you pressed, to pull something in on the bar.
It exists.
But guess what? If you mistime that, you're gonna blow your shoulder out. Like this is the stakes are
Yeah,
fairly high here, friends,
yeah.
especially when you get stronger. But dude, two things. First of all, John Meadows, a long time ago, pioneered or popularized the band hammer chest press because he understood that the strength curve wasn't perfect. Okay. And so he would double mini bands or micro mini bands on each side of the machine, attach the band from the plate carrier on the machine itself to like one of the plate storage things on the back, so that as you pressed, the weight got heavier. Okay. So
So
that
so
that helped.
their point was it gets too heavy at the lockout and it's not heavy enough at the bottom.
Okay,
That's
so
what their point
all right, so
was.
that I don't necessarily understand. I think that comes down to, first of all, maybe your triceps are just a limiting factor. Like if you were a power lifter and you were missing stuff at the top, okay, then you'd be doing more high end work. But
Mhm.
also, God, dude, Mike Israetel is just the king of walking into wood chippers. He's just the king. Like he can't. The people don't understand everything you do in life, audience. You tell on yourself. Everything. To a trained eye could look at how you treat a waiter and be like, I don't want to be friends with that person.
Yes.
Okay,
It's
that's it.
character.
Yeah, it's clear as day. Okay, and with Mike, it's like he just can't. He's never seen a wood chipper he didn't want to walk into. First of all, I know this is not always the best logic in the world, but a guy who recently fired at Mike Israetel and I would say achieved a Mortal Kombat tier fatality was Dorian Yates.
I saw that.
Dorian Yates got wind of the fact that Mike Israetel was, old clip recirculating of Mike Israetel shitting all over Mike Menser. Mike Menser, for my money, especially when you consider some people think that modern bodybuilders have gotten too big or not very aesthetic, take that into account. Prime Mike Menser, one of the greatest physiques of all time. I don't even think it's a question. Like almost any dude would
Agreed.
want to look like that. Like it's big enough that you turn heads, but it's aesthetic and lean enough that you could probably wear a suit and look like a normal person, right? Like
Yeah.
just a phenomenal physique. Okay, so Dorian gets wind of this, and he's basically has some choice words for Mike Israetel. And I bring up Dorian because if you look at Dorian's blood and guts documentary, here's a guy that exclusively used hammer strength for some of his movements, who
Yeah.
figured out that squatting, as an example, annihilated his lower back and that it just didn't work for him. Here's a dude that he used a ton of hammer strength stuff for his training. Or we could go down the total opposite end, similar results, but opposite end of training philosophy. And you could look at someone like Jay Cutler. I would encourage the audience to look a couple years ago. You would love this, Ian. John Meadows trained with Jay Cutler, like post retirement Jay Cutler, and they
Sure.
filmed a workout for each body part. And Jay Cutler's kind of like steering the workout, and he's kind of showing John, this is what I look for on each movement. And one of the things that Jay was emphatic about on the hammer strength was, I don't lock it out.
Yeah, he stays back here.
Yeah,
That was a big
he
phase in bodybuilding for
yeah,
a while with those bottom end partials.
and he goes to about 3/4, okay, and then takes it back. Okay, so like you're never going to find a perfect machine, with the exception of maybe the belt squat. You're never going to find a perfect machine that works for everybody. You're always going to have to tinker, okay, with your mechanics, adding bands, doing weird little things if you want it to be as close to a 10 out of 10 as possible. But guess what? The percentage of people who need the machine to be biomechanically perfect are so minuscule that it
Yeah.
doesn't even really matter. You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
that
what are we
one
talking
size
about
fits
here?
most creation.
Yeah,
So
that's how the economy is run. Okay,
yeah,
like that's how
yeah,
you take a prototype of a chest press machine or literally a fighter plane, whatever, to a factory and mass produce it. It's one
yeah,
size fits most. That's why the F-16 is one of the most widely distributed fighter jets in the history of the world, because guess what? It's good for most things and most people can afford to use it and can be trained to fly it. Okay. So like, well, not most people, most nations that have fighter pilots. So let's be a
true.
little more specific here, Eric.
Yeah,
But yeah, dude, that's just such nonsense. And like, again, if you are into higher intensity training, which I am and which you kind of are, that when you're doing a hammer chest press, the knowledge that you can go for that one last rep and not die, okay, is
yeah,
huge. The
yeah.
confidence in, okay, I can stop pushing and I'm okay. All right. Like, sorry, as an extreme dude with a relatively extreme personality, like, yeah, I might not squat, bench, and deadlift anymore, but I still try to beat my record book every single week. And guess what? That hack squat machine or that belt squat machine or that high incline, but that's my favorite machine by Hammer Strength. But aside from the belt
Is it?
squat, the high incline, dude, I'll go over why in a second. But like, that is my new bench press. That's what I'm thinking about when I come into the gym. Okay, I got 2 plates aside for 8 last time. When I get to 8, I add weight. Now I'm going to go 2 plates and a 5 each side. Can I get to 6? Can I get, like that is, it's still the same logic. It's still hardcore. It's just that the hammer chest press machine is not a sport like the bench press is. Okay, but
It's true. It's
but
true.
you still have to have that same logic. Now, I'll explain why that machine is my favorite. I saw this interesting video. I thought it was nonsense. Okay. But then I applied it to my training and it made perfect sense. This trainer, he had a pretty decent following, would have people lay down on a bench and put their phone on their chest. And his logic was, you see me, the phone heavily pitches up towards my clavicle, right? And his logic basically was, if your chest if your rib cage goes at such an angle, okay, like where the phone is tapering towards the clavicle, okay, uh, a barbell bench press is actually more of a decline press for you because of the way your pecs move across the rib cage. Where if your
Okay.
rib cage is, instead of, I don't know if that's the appropriate term, like if it's not concaving down, but it's more straight, so you're more barrel chested, okay, a barbell bench press actually will hit more of the total pec for you. Okay.
Hmm.
So the logic was, then in order to hit more of the total pec, you have to go to a low incline or a medium incline. And to hit upper pec, you have to do a super high incline. Okay.
Interesting. I
Now,
mean,
again,
yeah,
I wish I had the video on hand, had
sure.
no idea we'd go this deep into it. Didn't know the show would even be this good since we're so burnt out right now. But either way, this is a phenomenal, phenomenal podcast. But I absolutely noticed that I cut out all flat pressing for my last kind of hypertrophy phase. And I just did medium incline and high incline. And my whole pec grew more than it ever had,
Wow.
ever. You know,
I
so it's all anthropometrics,
It is. It is. I do think also, like, for example, with the barbell bench press, like we're used to powerlifting technique, which is
Also
essentially
true.
trying to make it a decline press. You're
Yes.
trying to shorten the stroke. You're trying to
Great
angle your
points.
rib cage as far back as you can for all the leverage benefits. And that's why you never really feel, I mean, if you're still doing the powerlifting style, I'm not surprised you're not feeling the pecs that much. I will go very flat backed bodybuilding style barbell and I'll get smoked. My pecs will get smoked nowadays. So I don't have such an arch in my back. I do have a more flat back position. Short of bringing my feet up on the bench because it's just sacrilegious. I'll still, keep a very loose leg position. I'm not hiking my legs beneath me and creating that crazy powerlifter arch. And, that smokes me. It's slower pace, not so explosive. I do like the Spoto press where I'll come down and I'll hold it about a centimeter off my
Great
chest
exercise.
for 2 or 3 seconds. I mean, if you need a different variation for your bench press that you're just bored of bench pressing and or you're breaking through a plateau of strength, Spoto press is underrated, I think. It's definitely, it's humbling. It's very humbling. You won't be able to handle the same amount of weight.
Yeah.
I would use a spotter. I would have a spotter
Oh
help
yeah.
you
Well, you
because
have to. The Spoto press, the spotter has to keep you honest about the distance of the bar off your chest.
Sure.
Also. Yeah,
Sure.
it's super important because
Unless you're very highly trained.
we've done those in the past, and it almost always is like, all right, we're just going to heave and hoe this thing, and it turns into a regular bench. You really have, like you said, you have to like start pretty much at the sticking point.
Yep.
Pause there and press up, and that's when you really get the benefit of it.
And check your ego at the door because you're going to cut your barbell weight in half. You're not going to be pressing anywhere near your capacity for some time until you get better at it. You can build up to it. But as far as the hammer strength goes, I want to circle back to that. The decline was always the best for me. It gets the widest at the bottom.
True.
I also like, instead of laying back on the decline, I would kind of tip my torso forward away from the back pad a little bit. So I'm more vertical, because sometimes with the other ones, they kind of swoop too high. And I like a downward, converging angle instead of above my shoulders.
Okay.
And even the flat, like the normal standard flat chest press version of that still swoops high. So I get the most local fatigue in my chest. You know, those days where those sessions and exercises where you feel the fibers just absolutely tearing apart, shredding, like rep to rep. And it's not even that you can't do any more reps because you're not strong enough. It's because you just want to quit because it's so painful. Like the tearing, it feels like you're truly damaging something.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want out of a lot of my chest press machines. And that's what hammer strength brings, in my opinion, especially that decline one. If you then tilt up a little bit and tilt your torso forward, try that out and spend a little more time in that wide position and really drive together at the converging point. One more thing that I've been doing for Smith pressing is I'll just basically try. I mean, remember that old cue in powerlifting? Try to bend the bar, and you try to you create torque, or you create torque from here, so your elbow is turning. I'll try to squeeze the Smith machine bar and just pull it together at the bottom. So when I reach my chest, I'll try to pull, almost like slide my hands together on the bar, or try to bend the bar like an accordion. That gets me a lot more pec activation at the bottom. Whereas sometimes without that converging hammer strength angle, it's hard to always feel the pecs unless you just hang out in that bottom half.
And then it becomes like an anterior delt exercise. And it's funny, like to this day, if I'm flat benching, I actually get a pump in my upper back because I'm so conditioned to bench like a power lifter. That settling
it's a lat movement. Powerlifters bench presses lats, not even chest.
I'm so conditioned to just put myself in a position, pulling the bar down to the same spot, that I get like a savage upper back pump. And I get, back in the day, it was funny. I noticed a greater decrease or decline in bench press performance after a max effort deadlift day than a max effort squat day, because my back would be so smoked from the deadlift that I couldn't maintain tightness. I want to double back to a point because you raised so much good stuff there, dude, about barbell stuff. It's kind of like how you just described with a converging chest press, the decline press. The one barbell movement, like if I were to train for physique, again, that I would not cut out, it would either be a deadlift, which I know is controversial because some people feel like it's just a low back exercise because that's the limiting factor, or a high-end rack pull, like at or above the knee. I've just never come across an exercise that develops my mid-back and mid-traps and gives me back thickness the way that does. There's just something about the sheer poundage that you're moving, setting the scapula against such extreme weight and pulling it from a dead stop where the back is becoming the limiting factor. Like, if I want to look like a badass, that's the first exercise I go to. It just gives me so much traps, like realistically, like upper, middle, and lower traps get smoked by it.
Oh yeah.
It gives me so much back thickness, and it gives me like a different kind of soreness. Like it feels like the soreness is like deep in the muscle. Sometimes you crank out lat pull downs and you feel soreness. Again, I don't know if this has ever been scientifically studied, but when you do like a heavy rack pull, it's almost like you could feel where the muscle, like it's like you could feel like its origin point is sore. Like it's like, like it's like all the way in there. And I suppose that is, we've said either heavy weights or super high weights are what build tendon strength. And I suppose that could be part of it too, which is just
both.
You're just like, just that crazy contraction, just driving those scapula down and back as you're pulling a weight from a dead stop. Like I don't really get much lower body from a rack pull. I'll get some glutes I'll feel some glute soreness. If I haven't done any heavy glute stuff in a while, right? Like it might catch me like a little bit. Certainly when I deadlift, I have a shorter torso and longer legs, so it's very easy for me to get my body behind the bar. So my deadlift is a huge hamstring movement. I feel it all the way up. All the assistance exercises that made my deadlift explode were all hamstring exercises. Okay. Like, make no mistake, that's what gave me the most bang for my buck. When you're
Yes.
deadlifting and you have a longer torso, obviously your shoulders are going to be more in front of the bar when you get into a hinge position. And that's when I think it becomes more of a torso movement than a leg movement. But, the way that I was built, it was just always going to be like just ass and hamstrings just and adductors just like became enormous from deadlifting. But that's the one barbell movement that if I was like going to bodybuild, that I probably would not take out. And I was kind of surprised to find on YouTube, but I suppose nothing about conflict on the internet should be surprising, how many people, namely Mike Israetel, hated the rack pull and the deadlift for basically like, not being like exclusively fatiguing to a target muscle. But I don't know, man. There's just something about that movement that I just fucking love the way that it makes me look.
Yeah.
I just do. There's like a power look that comes from that, that at least in my body type, I can't I've never been able to generate that look from like just rows, you
So
know?
there's one tweak that you could try, or anybody who's really more focused on physique and not so much powerlifting can try. So the deadlift and rack pulls, especially, the weight can get pretty crazy, pretty fast.
Yes.
And it will sap your central nervous system and it will make you feel like dog shit the next few days and you just can't recover from it. So what I've been doing is I've been doing a rack pull row superset. So I do like a fairly heavy rack pull to get that, or vice versa.
Mhm.
So I'll do a fairly heavy rack pull, let's say 8 to 12 reps, and then I'll go right into a T-bar row. So the fatigue, the rest period is short, the fatigue is compounding. You get the ultra load through the rack pull,
Mhm.
plus also with that static pinning down, like you mentioned, and locking in position. You're not working through a range of motion for the muscle, but you are locking and holding on,
Precisely.
through sheer stress. And then you go through a full deep stretch range of motion with the chest supported row in any form or fashion, or I'll do it flipped, or I'll do full range of motion, and then I'll try to hold on for dear life with my upper back locked in position with the rack pull. And I got to tell you, I've never felt a better pump in my back, better soreness the days after. It's like someone took a tack hammer to your back
Okay.
for hours. It's just like the most satisfying upper back, mid trap, rear delt, lower lat soreness. It's like it gets everything you need for the most part, and it's just a superset combo that may be hard to set up in a commercial gym to
That's the problem.
monopolize a
Yeah.
rack position. And so I do it with heavy dumbbells sometimes, like 100-pound dumbbells with straps, or like 100-pound kettlebells. And I'll do like a partial, like off blocks maybe, like, or like a partial RDL, and then right into a row. And I got to tell you, it's definitely worth exploring if you don't want to sap your entire essential. If you are a good deadlifter like you are, and it might take 500 pounds to get you to work
It's true.
at that, off a rack like that, maybe for the sake of your grappling, you don't need that. Maybe
Yeah.
you can just do that superset, get more hypertrophy and less dread in the next few days after that session.
Yeah, and that's a great point because you're combining, like you said, the hardcore isometric contraction of the rack pull
Yeah.
with a more static contraction. And as before you even said this, I was actually thinking to myself, it's just like, even no matter how heavy you're rowing, you're just never going to get that same type of isometric static contraction. It's just not a thing. It's just that the
No.
movement is different. It's just kind of not possible based on the nature of the movement. But that would be the one barbell movement that I would leave in, just a heavy hinge. That to me has always worked super, super well. Maybe I'd also leave in like good mornings, maybe, but I
Mm,
frankly, I'd use a specialty bar, so that's kind of cheating. I don't like a
sure.
barbell good mornings. I'd want to use, frankly, a cambered bar. But in general, you figure out what machines tend to like work best. Like for me to build my quads, it's always going to be hack squats and leg extensions.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that give me the absolute best results. And a little trick, I think I've probably shared this with you, but you have wisdom beyond your years in lifting, so you've probably already seen it. Reverse band hack squats are a game changer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, this is the appeal of the barbell is, the barbell is always going to weigh with 20 kilos or 45 pounds or whatever we're saying here. Every hack squat sled will weigh something different, right? So like
Yes.
it could be a little tough to know like how much band tension to use. When I was still training at Synergy, they had a hack squat sled. They put a new one and it was pretty heavy. The sled was like 100 something pounds. Okay.
Wow.
Which was pretty, it was pretty
It's a
decent.
lot.
I was surprised, but if it wasn't 100, it was like high 90s. Okay.
Okay.
And I did notice, probably due to some poor ankle mobility on my part, that my knees would get really banged up, like bad tendonitis from the bottom end of a hack squat. And so I saw this online. John Meadows had spoken about it. Other people have. I took two strong bands. So those, for my old school meathead friends, those would be the green bands, the Westside Barbell green bands. At least back in the day. I don't know if the colors are the same now. Okay. And I choked them around the top end of the machine, pull them down around the weight carrier on the machine. Okay. And I figured out that it took off pretty much exactly 100 pounds at the bottom end of my hack squat.
Okay.
Okay. Now that allows me to overload the top end of the movement where kind of the upper part of my quad, for lack of a better term, is working a little bit harder. You could always go finish off the teardrop on the leg extension machine. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which is, if you hurt your knees on the leg extension, you've probably already hurt them, or you have issues from other stuff. It's actually
Or
pretty
it's plate
foolproof
loaded.
exercises. Yeah, exactly. Like if it's a pin loaded one, it's the strength curve is legit. You'll be fine. But I did notice, like it took a lot of pressure off my knees, and B, it still does teach explosiveness, because there's an exact point where the bands at the top, midway up and above, the bands are totally deloaded. So that
Yes.
full extra 100 pounds, it hits you like a truck. And if you
Like the
think,
pendulum squat
yes,
in that
exactly,
way.
exactly. And
Very
if you
similar
think
to
about
that.
it, I don't know, this is different for everybody, but most people will miss a squat pattern in the bottom of the squat. Most people.
Yeah.
There are people that will miss a quarter or a third of the way up. So like you are kind of still training yourself acceptably in the weakest area of the lift, and then overloading the part where you're strong. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, this isn't powerlifting, so we're not necessarily worried about nuking that sticking point. We're not training for the hack squat Olympics here, friends. But I absolutely noticed it reminded me to explode. Okay, which I think is important. Like if you don't want to lose those fast twitch fibers, the explosive fibers are the biggest fibers. Okay, especially if you're already warmed up. I think trying to move heavy weight explosively, even if you can't move it explosively, is still paramount. Okay, and so it was
Yeah.
kind of a reminder, like you have to, when you get to the bottom, you have to shoot this up, or else you're going to get stapled on this machine.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the reverse bands probably make you more comfortable at the bottom and more confident with explosive movement. If you have the full load at the deepest part of the knee bend,
Exactly.
you probably don't want to explode, especially if we're both pushing 40. You probably don't want to fire out of the bottom in
Nope.
the most severe joint angles possible. So it gives you a little bit of that, you know, let's just call it like a knee wrap feeling where you get a lot of help at the bottom and then you can finish the lift through the top. I like
Exactly.
that. I
Exactly.
like that. I got to try that.
It was, and again, there might be some hack squat machines where the sled weighs 35 pounds, right? And so you might need a significant amount of weight just to be able to get the sled itself to the bottom position, right? And
Sure.
also, it depends on the anthropometrics of the machine and where you can actually attach. Like I've seen the same setup done with one band, where it's choked up and around the back of the machine. So
Sure.
there's a million different ways to do it. You can use different bands. You could set them up differently. This was just based on what I had. It was real simple. Like I had them in my gym bag. Okay, let's use them, and it made the lift like infinitely more comfortable for me. And guess what? I saw really good upper leg development from doing it that way. Now the closest cousin of that would be like a reverse band barbell squat, of which I've done many of those in the past. But guess what? For doing a reverse band barbell squat, do you want to talk about central nervous system fatigue? You may be taking out 200 pounds more and having it on your back
Yeah.
than you would have without the bands there. Like I can remember doing those in our old crew and going like full retard with them, like way too.
Yeah.
Eventually, we realized for like a raw squatter, no more than a mini or a monster mini band on each side gave us the overload. But I can
Yeah.
remember doing them with like green bands on each side. Bro, I don't even know if I was squatting 600 at that point in time, like, raw, like whatever. Dude, I was taking like 750 out of the rack. And I
Yeah.
was
It's
just,
just too
I
much.
couldn't even breathe. Like it was
Yeah.
so much overload that it's like, I get it on my back and I just wasn't conditioned to even be able to perform like the Valsalva maneuver properly. And you're like,
Yeah.
this is chaotic. Like it seems like a bad idea. So again, we could incorporate that into a barbell, but guess what? Like now you got 100 pounds more than your squat max on your
On
back.
your spine.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a safe idea. It's not a good idea.
I do like using the chains and bands a lot, but I wish there was, I mean, they have it now, more expensive inventions, but I wish there was a more economical way to do the reverse effect of that, to add weight at the bottom of certain movements. So you can get both types of, so you can have certain training days where you're overloading the top of the movement and then other training days where you're overloading the bottom. So they
Yes.
have these like, electrical cable machines now. It's kind of like a pulley system in a box, and you can calibrate the weight to be certain difficulty at certain lengths. So you can set it up to where it gets harder at the bottom of your squat or a hack squat, for example, if you attach it to the horns,
Yes.
and then it gets easier as you come up. So for like the modern bodybuilding, you can kind of continue to overload the bottom without not necessarily training for athleticism. So you're not really exploding.
Yeah.
It's just training the deep angles of the joints and
Yeah.
the super stretched muscles. But I wish there was like because however you cut it, bands and chains, they do the same thing. They
Yes.
overload the top and they remove load at the bottom. And whether you do them reverse, whether you do them regular, so it's that's one invention I'd like to see that is not thousands of dollars. That would be
I
a
will
way to
say
increase weight at the bottom.
that's a great point. I've used a lot of bands and chains over the course of my training career, and I will say the bands definitely they beat you up more because of the overspeed eccentric. Like it's pulling you down
Yeah.
faster than gravity.
Yeah.
And I also will say, weirdly, I was if we calculate band tension or whatever, okay, which of course we did back in the day, I was better at squatting with bands in terms of like poundage moved than free weight because I found that it kept me from getting pitched forward because the bands kept me in a straight line. So with bands, I was squatting like in the upper sixes in terms of like total tension on the bar. Okay.
Yeah.
And I could barely squat 600, 610 because I didn't have something that was like keeping me almost like locked in. Like I was almost like I could I'm like driving my back against the bar, but the bar's in such a sturdy position because of the thick bands that
Yes.
it almost wasn't the best carryover for my style of squatting.
That's fair.
And the chains, I love using chains, but dude, I'm not bringing 100 pounds of chain into the gym with me. This is
No.
ridiculous. And
You
if you
gotta have
leave
your
them
own
in the
setup.
gym, you know people are going to lose them. You know they're going to mess with the length of the feeder chain, which matters. Like
Yep.
there has to be a certain amount of chain on the floor and everything. Like I really miss, in particular, benching against chain. I absolutely
Okay.
loved benching against chains, but for the vast majority of people, it's just simply not feasible.
Yeah.
It's very, very annoying. Bands are going to be a better option, but even then, dude, like setting up bands for benching in the average gym that does not have like a competition bench press,
Sure.
it's really annoying, dude.
It
Like
is.
you need a ton of dumbbells. You need the dumbbells to connect them to. Then you need the dumbbells on top of those dumbbells to make sure that
It's
dumbbell doesn't fly
obnoxious.
around. And it's like, okay, like I better be moving some serious weight here to make this worth it, or else
Yeah.
it's like, what am I doing? And the answer
Yeah.
is not much.
You're monopolizing a lot. To that band tension point for squatting, it's also funny because it, like you said, the tension keeps you honest, right? So all that tension keeps you honest on the way down. It makes you fight for your position maybe a little bit harder because it's more difficult at the top.
Yeah.
But it also, like with an unbanded barbell and weight, when the weight starts going a certain way, it keeps going that way. With the band fixed at a certain point at the bottom of the rack or at the top of the rack for that matter, it always has somewhere to come back to the midline. It's
Yes.
almost like Smith
Exactly.
machine rails where it keeps it
Exactly.
kind of on a more linear trajectory and not so much with gravity and inertia. If that barbell comes forward, it's going to continue to come forward. So it does help you in that way, which probably helped you lift more weight with the band, even though it
Yes.
seems harder,
Yeah.
that it kept it on a more machine-like path.
Yes, there's no question. I mean, I will say in terms of like training athletes, developing explosiveness, I do think that there is some merit to banded box squats done for speed. I feel like the overspeed eccentric, and again the fact that like you have to accelerate all the way through the movement and achieve like a violent type of hip extension at the top, I think translates really, really well to sport, assuming
Yeah.
that it is being done appropriate load, appropriate volume, appropriate frequency, which I guess
Technique.
everything assumes that if we're talking about benefit.
Of course. Of
But
course.
but again, huge pain in the ass to set up. Okay. Like
Yeah.
when you're using a monolift, it's just so easy to just choke the bands around the bottom of the monolift.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
so easy, whereas commercial gym, Like, dude, some squat racks, you know, the bottom horizontal poles of the rack are actually up quite high. So like you might
Yeah.
choke it around that the horizontal pole at the bottom, and guess what? Like now you have no tension at all at the bottom because you know, whereas the monolift at the very least it is on the floor, like it is concrete touched down to the floor. Like usually you'd have to like tip the mono up to even get the bands underneath. And I was listening to because obviously our phones spy on us. Jim Wendler has started a YouTube channel and he does a live stream every week and he clips it out and puts up these great clips on training. And he was like telling a story about training at Westside Barbell, how they did like reverse band benching or something to that effect. And like at the start of the training cycle, he worked up to like 405 reverse band and felt great. And then 8 or 10 weeks later, they used the same exercise and every single person did like 50 pounds less. Now, look, the whole point of the max effort method is just to strain. It's not necessarily to hit PRs. Interestingly enough, as a funny aside here, Jim Wendler once told the story about Louis Simmons where he was like, Louis, like, why are we doing like deadlifts with like bands and chains? Like, what's the point? And he was like, so if you have a bad day, you don't get discouraged
Really? That was his line.
because you'll just not remember. It's so obscure. The whole point is just to strain that you'll never remember your sumo
Interesting.
deadlift, 200-pound chain, 100-pound band. Like you just won't remember it. Like who cares? The whole point is just to strain. Now, of course, they had indicator lifts and like those had to be kept true, but like off-season training, generally there's training. Point is, he says that he hits like 40, 50 pounds less, and everyone is like, man, are we getting weaker? And they check the bands, and the bands have just been stretched so much further after a training cycle worth of use that like it
Yeah.
was just providing almost no bounce off their chest as
Got
opposed
it.
to what it was doing before. So like I've squatted against bands and I'm like, oh wow, that was really, really challenging. And then using the same bands 6 months later, I hit like an insane PR. Of course you did. The fucking rubber is so stretched out that there's no tension at the top. So like it's a yeah, like you didn't put 100
You
pounds
don't
on your
consider
squat.
that
Yeah, the
very
bands are
often.
annihilated. Like that's what happened. You destroyed the equipment, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like those captains of crush grippers. Like if you just wear the hell out of that coil, you can close the two or whatever pretty
yes.
easily. But
Yes.
if you only do it once in a while, you keep it fresh for a
Get it
test.
out of the
And
box.
it's
Yes, exactly. It's
yeah,
totally different.
exactly.
I'll tell you this a funny story. Uh, there was my old boss, John Gaglione, was a school teacher before he started to run his business full time. And so in the summer months before the 7 p.m. crew took off, I would coach the morning sessions and he would come in after the session was over and he and I would lift together, just me and him. This is before anybody was training at night. And John had Jesse Burdick doing his programming. And there was one day where Jesse Burdick programmed like max effort monster mini band bench pressing. And then after we worked out with that, we were supposed to take the bands off and then either rep out with what the weight we had just used or work up. I don't remember. That part doesn't matter. First of all, like when you see guys benching against the light band, which is like the old school orange band, um, or I forget what color it was in Westside. With Elite FTS, it was orange. Uh, that's someone who's benching like 500 pounds. Like you don't
Yeah.
think about it, like the amount of band you need is all relative to your strength. Okay, so like yeah, of course you might use a green like for your squat because you squat more than you fucking bench. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
neither me nor John were good enough benchers to be able to get any leverage out of any mileage out of using the monster minis on the side. Dude, I don't think either of us got heavier than 185. And it was like
Really.
savage, like eye socket bursting level straining, you know, like you are like so challenging, like because it's getting heavier, you're getting stuck. It was impossible to move. Then I remember we take the bands off, and it's like because your nervous system is so prepared for the band pulling down, it felt like I was benching on the moon. Like I almost injured myself without the bands because I was like floating all over the place because I had just done a whole workout where I'm prepared for the force of the bands. Like you said before, my nervous system is taking into account the fact that the bands are locking the bar path in place.
Yeah.
So now we take it off and he and I are like, whoa, like it was like we were drunk trying to bench press. And it's like, listen, I'm not a strong bencher, but I've got good technique. Like I would never screw up a bench press that badly, but it was wild. Like we both literally almost died because we're like the bar is like rotating all over the place, and when we racked it, we're like, I don't care what a coach puts in the program, we are never doing that shit again. Like
Yeah,
never
that's just
under any circumstances am I ever doing that shit again.
what you have to realize about years ago is that a lot of shit was just experimental, and people they used you as an experiment. Like a lot of coaches, like even some of my strongman coaches, maybe they assumed I was going to take drugs at some point, or I was on drugs, which I wasn't, and they just gave me this volume and intensity to just beat me into the ground. And like maybe if I was on some superhuman doses, I could have withstood that kind of damage. But I gotta tell you, Eric, I'm bummed, man. I have a hard stop at 12:30, and this has been, I think, one of my favorite episodes so far out of everything we've done.
Sometimes we don't need the physique of the week, but we're going to leave a lot more on the table for next week. Next week, we're going to put a gun to Ian's head, and mine too, but Ian will be more fun. We're going to make him pick 5 machines. No more than 5 machines. Everything else must be done free weight in this world. Like every other body part must be trained with barbells or dumbbells. He's got to pick 5 machines. We're gonna do that next week. I'll do the same, and we may rip off the Williamson one and do 10 exercises that you can't live without. But
yeah, I like that one too.
But I this will probably get posted this week. Which means the next episode might be after Christmas. So in other words, if we don't talk to you before then, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year. God bless everyone. Thank you for following us down the Iron Road. We love walking it with you. Have a great one.